trunk, I open up, I sold my soul a good price.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Nerd Talk podcast by thedigitalworm.com. I am your host Matt. I'm here with my co-host and good buddy John. John, say hello.
Hello.
And every week we go through the top 10 most interesting things we found on the web and we just chat, discuss, have a good time. And first up on the docket today, last week we talked about how women are really getting the short end of the stick as far as pay goes. Like the gender pay gap in Hollywood is much different than it is for other parts of the country. We're seeing like 80 cents on the dollar, I believe, for most jobs and careers, but in Hollywood it's more like 30 cents on the dollar. Shalrima, John, is that correct?
Well, it's just pretty much where it is.
Yeah, but it looks like we got a little bit of good news this week. Marvel is going to do a standalone Black Widow film, which people like John and myself have been looking forward to and wanting for a while. And they went out of their way to hire a female director because they wanted to create the best female lead movie possible. And it also, I mean, this is pure speculation because Disney does not release how much they pay their actors. But it's looking like Scarlett Johansson is going to get a pretty solid paycheck. Reports have her earning about $15 million for this film, which is just pretty good. It's a lot of money. John, what do you think about this?
Well, I mean, honestly, it's kind of funny the article you sent based on to give the information on this. It was kind of passive aggressive in a lot of ways. I'm not sure who wrote it. I know it's through Cinema Blend is the website, but like what we're trying to focus on is kind of the stranglehold that Disney keeps on their properties in a way, because like the original lady that they asked to direct it said no thanks because they wanted someone else to direct the action scenes, control over the entire film. And I don't think that anyone who directs a Disney film has full control over the film. I don't think that is a thing that happens with Disney at all. I think that they're so compartmentalized and they've got everything set formulaically the way they want, that there probably is just one or two people that do all of their action stuff for the Marvel films. And based on the quotes given by that director, I don't think she likes Marvel films very much, so it's not surprising that she would not have taken that job. I don't know anything about the director that is showing as being at the helm. I don't know if I've seen any of her films or not.
I looked her up on IMDb and I have not seen anything. She's she's relatively new as far as directing goes. But we're seeing that a lot more, right? With some of these bigger budget films, just newer directors.
Right. Well, I will say that the headhunters at Disney are very good at finding talent. They're very good at finding people who have the potential to make awesome things happen. I am looking forward to a Black Widow film very much. But I think that you kind of go into anything that Marvel or Disney makes, understanding that Mickey Mouse is at the helm all the time.
Oh yeah. But I think most people are aware of that.
On all the control,
Well, I think from Disney and Marvel's perspective, if it ain't broke, like they're control freaks, sure, but I mean they've got kind of this winning formula, and I'm just happy that they're making the movie, the female-led movie, and they're getting a female director. Like that kind of made, especially after the segment last week was fairly depressing, right? And it was nice to. I mean, it was like it's sad that actresses in Hollywood aren't being paid, and I doubt it's just the actresses. I'm sure women.
I'm sure it goes all the way down the line.
Oh,
for
yeah.
Sure.
It was nice to see something like this. It made me a little happier.
Sure, absolutely. I'm looking forward to the film for sure. I really like that character.
Oh yeah, Black Widow is pretty awesome, and I think Scarlett Johansson has done a great job thus far.
Absolutely.
So moving on to the next segment, Taylor Swift at a concert she performed this past May at the Rose Bowl used facial recognition software to identify potential stalkers that may be coming to her concerts. I don't know, Taylor Swift is a very, very famous individual, and she is an attractive woman. And famous people, especially attractive famous people, tend to draw fans that, well, I'm trying to think about how I want to break this down. There are a lot of people out there who are suffering from mental illness. And, if you only have 100 fans and 1% of the population have mental illness, you're going to have one person who could potentially stalk you. But when you have 800 million fans, that's a lot more people that could be potential stalkers. And I've done a little bit of research on this, and she has been the target of rape and death threats. Her family has been threatened. It's pretty fucked up. And so she was using this.
It's not, you can't use the blanket of mental illness on this, though. That's a thing that we do in our culture that I think is very, very wrong. That's not how we should be looking at this. Taylor Swift gets threatened by people because she doesn't take shit from people, because she stands up for herself. She sued a guy a couple of years ago who grabbed her, asked her in a photo op. He thought he had the right to, because he's a straight white male.
Well, he was
a radio DJ.
Do you not think that all of these stalkers are suffering from mental illness?
Most of them to be stalkers. I would consider them to be people who are threatened by women who are willing to take the power back. I wouldn't consider them stalkers at all. I would consider them criminals. Most of them, I just think that in this country, people hide behind, especially white people, hide behind the guise of mental instability and mental sickness. And most of the time, that's not even what that means. And I think that to go in that direction is further stigmatizes the people who chemical imbalances and issues in their brains that they're working on, and that take their meds and that do the right things. And these people are never going to hurt anyone, but maybe even not that. And when it comes down to it, these people are fucking criminals, and we can't excuse that through the guise of mental instability or explain it away. I'm not saying that you specifically are excusing it, but as a people, as a culture, it's a thing that we do.
Yeah.
And I think that we have to have the dialogue open on this. It is so pervasive in our culture. Assign that to mass shooters and people who go in and take out multiple groups of people with guns in a movie theater. We lump it all in this phrase of mental instability or mental issue or mental health, and that's just not what it is. The people who threaten Taylor Swift, most of them are not sick people. They're assholes, and they need to be stopped.
I completely.
She's the one. She's the one that's getting the brunt of it, because she's the one that has stood up the most in the last 10 years or so. But she's not the only one that has these issues.
I think
that the tech side of using the facial recognition software is genius.
I agree.
I think that's awesome. I think that is probably part of the way of the future for people to protect themselves, and I think it's great.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I think that you have to act of actions are supposed to have consequences. And people hide behind, say, well, I'm mentally ill, or well, that person's mentally ill. That's just not true.
Well, some of her stalkers have been confirmed to have mental illness, and a couple of them have been off their medication when they've done things such as, stalking Taylor Swift. There was at least one.
I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I think that it's worth mentioning the other.
Oh, I agree. Like I said, she is an attractive, powerful woman, and that's intimidating. I mean, even if she wasn't attractive, I mean, just being a powerful woman is intimidating to a lot of white males, right?
Yeah, but yeah, white males are pretty fragile, man, when it comes down to it.
I mean, I'm a fairly sensitive guy, so I can't disagree. That was a joke. I'm actually not sensitive at all. But yeah, it's
Triggered by that.
I love this article. Some people like it. The article I sent you, as well as I looked up 3 or 4 more. There were definitely, the author definitely brought up things like privacy concerns, and I was like, who gives a shit? Like, you're paying, $30 or $40 to see this woman perform live. Maybe more than $30 or $40. I have no idea how much a Taylor Swift.
That's a $200 concert ticket.
Oh, well, so you're paying $200. You're gonna go there. You're gonna have a good time. If you're not a criminal, if you're not a stalker, then it has zero effect on you. Like this camera was set up in a kiosk, and images of people's faces were sent back to a home base in Nashville, and her security team was just putting it against potential stalkers. No one was hurt, and yes, it's true, like, people didn't know, but this woman's protection is, she deserves to be able to go out and perform and do what she loves to do for her fans who love her without having to be afraid.
I mean, realistically, anytime you walk into a music venue, you know that there are going to be cameras there. Anytime you walk into a grocery store, you know that there's going to be cameras there. Anytime you walk into some place that's not a home, you know that you're going to be under surveillance. That's why sign at Kroger, when you go into the grocery store, saying that there's going to be electronic surveillance, those things aren't necessary anymore because it's technically a public space, and you can be filmed by someone in a place like that without legal ramifications.
Sure.
Conversely, that's why if you have a camera on your porch, you are required to post that there's a camera there, because that's not considered a public space, and there is an expectation of privacy in private places. A private place like that, it is completely within their purview to film you if they need to. No one who is reasonable can complain about those cameras being there.
Oh, I 100% agree. Like, I don't
Not
care.
Selling the images. Now, it would be different if they were selling the images or trying to make money off of it. That does become a different thing.
Yeah.
But that's clearly not what's happening. So anyone who's complaining about that is just trying to pick it apart, just to pick it apart, in my opinion.
So, if any of Taylor Swift stalkers are out there listening to this show right now, you should probably stop. For multiple reasons. A, there's a good chance you're an asshole, and B, you're gonna get picked up by the security team and escorted out of the building, and it's gonna be really embarrassing. You have any final thoughts on that, John?
Well, I think that wraps it up pretty well. Don't be an asshole.
Yeah. This is John. Wait. So, John, you actually called this. We discussed this a little bit a few weeks ago about how Fortnite is essentially stealing dance moves and from hip hop, and now they actually stole the Fresh Prince Carlton dance, and I wasn't aware that this was that actor. I'm trying to. What is
Alfonso Ribeiro?
Yeah. I was not aware that the Carlton dance was his intellectual property, but apparently it is.
It technically is. He technically choreographed it himself. It is a riff off of an older dance move from the 40s, but it's different enough and marketably different enough that he can consider it his own intellectual property. I really hope that this is the lawsuit that finally breaks this open to be able for people to be able to get compensated by the guys who make Fortnite for this.
Yeah, I completely agree.
This has gone on too long. And Alfonso Ribeiro he never stopped being famous. He's still doing things on television. He's still doing things on the stage. The guy's probably still fairly rich, and I'm pretty sure he can afford a team of really good attorneys. So what needs to happen in one of these lawsuits, there's been a couple lawsuits now, none of them have worked, but what team or what someone's legal team needs to do is look and find a jurisdiction that is likely to be sympathetic to their side of this. You can't try this in LA because it's too entertainment based. The company that makes Fortnite is based out of Raleigh, I believe. You can't really try it in North Carolina because everyone in North Carolina is an asshole. So that doesn't really work. And, Fargo or something. Find some jurisdiction that's going to be less likely to side with the large company that they have become very quickly. And I think that you're going to get some good results there. And because it's just going to take one. That's all it's going to take. And the precedent is there to be able to build off that in other jurisdictions. Because there's a lot of times, a lot of judges don't want to be the first person to do something. Sometimes there's ones who like to set precedent and a lot of people who don't like to set precedent. If they do this right, this could be where this starts. Because some of the guys, like, by this, these aren't like the high tier. This is not Eminem. These aren't the multimillionaires. These dudes are still, you know what I'm saying? Like these guys are, some of them are struggling, and they created this thing themselves as part of what they did, and they deserve some fucking dollars.
So yeah, Alfonso is a millionaire. I just looked it up. You never know how accurate this stuff is on the internet, but according to CelebrityNetWorth.com, he's got a net worth of about $7 million. So for
70?
7. So for Hollywood, he's not rich, but to people like me and
us,
you,
though.
yeah, he's probably got enough money for a legal team for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
So I hope that works out. I'm not saying I want Fortnite to fail, because that's not true. I don't want any game to fail. But they need to start throwing up some cash to these intellectual properties that they're ripping off, because that's just fucked up. A poacher was forced as part of his sentence to repeatedly watch Bambi. Now, this guy, it was if I read this report correctly, it was four members out of a family, and they were illegally hunting and had been doing so for years. And one of the defendants, he was sentenced to a year in jail plus 120 days for felony firearms probation violation. And the judge thought that, as part of his sentence, if he was going to have to watch Bambi once a month while he was in jail. John, what do you think about this?
I actually have been following this a little bit here and there, and I don't think you can really call these guys hunters. There's an assumption. If you're hunting, there's an assumption that there's a reason for it, typically to eat or to give to someone to eat. These people are no sense at all. These people are killing these deers. They're cutting the heads off the deers for trophies and leaving the carcass behind to rot and contaminate the area. And that's all they've done. They've done it hundreds of times. They that we know of, and who knows what else they're doing. I think that a year is a fucking joke. I think that these people need academic help. Honestly, like there's clearly something fucking your head. Animals taking the heads and wandering off with them. That clearly is not an okay human being. That's not a normal person. The Bambi thing is hilarious. I kind of wish it would be once a day instead of once a month. I think that would make more sense. And maybe every time Bambi's mom goes down, they tase him or something. Like that would.
I think once a day he would become desensitized to the absolute just. I don't even know the word to describe that.
Well, I think that anyone who's capable of behaving like that is already desensitized enough that it's not going to affect them in the way that the judge wants it to. But maybe a little bit of psychological warfare will, cure him of whatever it is that makes him do what he's doing.
I wish the judges did more things like this. Like, punishment fits the crime. Like, I'm not saying watching Bambi makes it, is equal punishment, but jail time plus having to watch Bambi, it seems like that's kind of a punishment fits the crime kind of sentence, right?
I'm sure that's what dude was going for sure. I totally get it.
And I kind of wish this kind of thing would just happen more often, rather than them just being like, "Fuck you, you're getting 20 years in jail. Fuck you."
Right.
I think irony can be a very, very funny thing.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. I don't know. It frustrates me that there's people who are serving 10 years for having 2 joints in their car, and then this dude decapitates 300 animals again illegally and wastes all the meat and possibly contaminates multiple pieces of wilderness because that wasn't naturally going to be there, and he gets a year like this. There's nothing symmetrical about anything with our justice system at all, and this is just another failure.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're 100% right there. Like,
and this is coming. I'm a meat eater. I actually love venison. It's my favorite meat of all time. I believe in fully believe in the right to hunt for game. I have hunted. I fully stand by the right to do that. But what those guys were doing was not that. That's not what it was. Okay.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It was fucked up, and he probably should have gotten more jail time. But the Bambi thing was a pretty cool thing for the judge to do. 21 years ago, we had a very sad day. Chris Farley passed away December 18th, 1997. And in Adam Sandler's most recent Netflix special, he sang a song that was about Chris Farley. John, did you watch the song? I thought it was an awesome song, honestly. And
I gotta be honest, man, I actually didn't.
Okay.
You sent it to me. You're actually like 2 or 3 people sent it to me in private messages on Facebook, and I looked at the link, and I elected not to check it out for a couple of reasons. Honestly, and this always for some reason always tends to surprise people. I actually don't like Adam Sandler. I'm not interested in him as an entertainer. I don't consider him to be a particularly good entertainer. I know that there are a lot of people who really enjoy the guy, and I appreciate him. He's just not for me. Well, I really did like Chris Farley. To have those types of things, they tend to affect you, and I just didn't feel like crying. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, it would have, dude. I almost.
So, I'm sure that it's just this super sad, super heartfelt thing, and I respect that. Chris Farley a lot back in the day, and I just felt like it would affect me, so I gave it a pass. But I think the people who like both of those guys 100% should watch it, and I've heard nothing but awesome things about it, and I'm sure it's great.
Yeah, it was an incredible and touching, very heartfelt song, and really
it was his best friend.
Yeah, it really pulled at my heartstrings, and you could see like they had some like home movies like of them together showing in the background.
I see. Yeah, that's just a disaster for me. So
yeah, if you're a fan of Chris Farley or Adam Sandler, you can find this as part of his 100% fresh Netflix special, and I highly recommend if you're okay with this kind of material, then give it a shot because the song was fantastic.
And to be fair, I've heard nothing but good about that specific Adam Sandler special as well. I've heard that it is as good as the stuff he put out in the early 90s, and for what that was for that time frame, he was very good at that time. So he probably worth giving a shot.
I listened to some of his stuff as a kid. It was the first time I ever heard anything that was kind of like sketch based, as far as just pure audio. And I found it really entertaining as a kid, but I kind of grew out of that style of comedy as I got older.
Right.
All right, so let's move on. This is more of a current affairs piece here. I really don't know how I feel about this one. The first lab-grown steak is now underway with a new startup. It's called Aleph Farms. That's Aleph. And so what they're doing is they're taking beef cells and they're essentially just growing the meat without raising an animal.
Well, it's. I mean, that's a really nice way of saying they're cloning it.
Yes, I was trying to stay away from that.
This is cloned beef flesh.
Yes. I know a lot of people are not going to want to eat this. I think it looks. I mean, it looks interesting. I don't know.
But it's definitely not my style of steak specifically. If you look on the link you sent me, there's 4 or 5 pictures, and they're all dishes that look very over prepared. They've got sauces, they've got, they've marinated the meat. So it looks to me like what they're saying with those pictures is that you can't just grow a ribeye and cook a ribeye and eat it without anything added to it. So that, for me, less interested as a normal consumer, because as much as I love steak, for me a steak is, and you sear it, you flip it, you sear it, is blue. That's to me is a steak, and I don't think that's going to work for this lab grown stuff.
Yeah, I don't think it is either.
That being said, if what you want is an elaborate texture combo, it looks really good for that. But I think that what they're really going for there is a way to feed people in areas where it's difficult to have livestock and it's difficult to make certain things work. And for that aspect, I think that's going to be great.
Yep. And they also, because livestock does contribute quite a bit to pollution.
Oh yeah, the methane thing. But the thing of it is, though, like this, in my opinion, unless we have some kind of a physical calamity that makes cows start to die off, and it naturally, just, well, unnaturally, but generally becomes something we have less of as a resource, I could see this becoming a normal thing. And you go to the grocery store and you get some cloned beef steak and there's clone burgers, and then go with it, and it's fine.
Yeah.
And at that point, I think that we'll all embrace it because we won't have much of a choice. Things are set up now, and I think this is the best way to look at it, in my opinion, is let cows go free. Like, you can't just switch to, because we've bred the independentness and dependent on us for everything to feed. They can't gather their own food anymore. They can't do all the things that wild animals can do. You look at a bison grazing ground and get away from dangers and live like a real animal, and then you look at a beef cow, and which will just stand there until it dies, literally. We've bred all the intelligence out of these animals, so we have, if we did go off of eating them as a species, that specific animal, in much in the same way that we owe certain breeds of dogs, all the breeds of dogs. They didn't exist until we started genetically modifying dogs, hundreds of years. So, like poodles, you owe that poodle existence, because that dog is not going to be able to fend for itself. So the same is true of basically every cow in the world, because of what we've done to that specific. You can't switch in unless there's just a calamity or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with you, man. Sometimes you just say things a lot better than I do.
I don't know, man. I just think about weird stuff. I mean, realistically, though, I mean, think about it. If that's the direction that they wanted to start going into, and then you've got this gigantic population of cows, and the only reason why the cow population isn't an actual problem in the world is that we do eat beef. Stop eating beef, you can't, you castrate them all and just make them not exist as a species anymore. The people like PETA would love that, right? Like, so what do you do?
Moving on. I found this article on The Verge this past week, and it was called. So I found this article. It's called "Twitch is giving more creators money, but it couldn't keep YouTube's biggest names." And I read through this article, and there is some misleading and also some inaccurate information. And I wanted to take a little bit to discuss exactly what Twitch and YouTube are and how people make money off of them. So I think first and foremost that these YouTubers I think they're thinking too inside of the box. To optimize to the fullest extent, you definitely want to use both Twitch and YouTube together. They work really well together, in my opinion. I'm currently using both. If anyone has paid any attention to my YouTube channel at all, you see quite a bit of gaming content. Now, I'm fully aware I am not a professional gamer. I'm a gaming enthusiast. I'm a content creator. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a professional gamer, and you don't to be successful on Twitch or YouTube. And, Twitch actually offers way more monetization than YouTube does. And I think not going on to Twitch and figuring out a way to make it work for these popular YouTubers, I think that's really selling themselves short. I can't imagine being on YouTube only and not having a Twitch account in 2018. There's just they work really well together. Like your Twitch followers are way more likely to follow you on YouTube than non-Twitch followers, and your YouTube subscribers are way more likely to check out your Twitch channel than people who don't watch you on YouTube. Like, YouTube essentially only has like a couple of monetization strategies. You've got your AdSense and you've got your affiliate marketing. Whereas on Twitch, you've got probably half a dozen different things you could do to make money. And, I'm not trying to focus this on monetization, but making money if you're doing it full time, I mean, it's a big deal. It's your livelihood, so it's something you have to consider. And this article, I think, did an okay job, but not a great job. And like I said, there's some inaccurate information and some misleading information. John, as you're officially a content creator when you started working on the show, and by working I mean volunteering. What do you think about these YouTubers who just can't seem to make Twitch work for them? Like,
well, I really think that it's a case by case thing. I think that anyone who plays video games can probably make something work for Twitch. Anyone who does a podcast can probably make something work for Twitch. But there are some very, very successful YouTubers that I think are not going to find a venue in Twitch. And I'll give you an example. And to be honest with you, I don't watch a whole lot of YouTube. Joe Rogan is something I watch occasionally, and there's a few others. But I think that Rogan 100% could. He already streams his stuff on YouTube. He can stream on Twitch too, and probably double his revenue.
Oh yeah,
honestly.
without a doubt.
People he love that dude. So he actually could. I just think he just knows he doesn't need to, and it's fine for him. But let me give you an example of a very, very, very successful YouTube dude who I think that probably would have a really hard time making Twitch work. Are you familiar with Binging with Babish?
I've never heard of that YouTube channel.
Oh, this dude is awesome. He takes dishes you find on TV shows, movies, things that couldn't possibly exist, and finds real world corollaries and makes them. His production value is super high. All of his equipment is super good. He actually built his own test kitchen through being a YouTube person. He's up to like hours or something. And every time he hits one of the million marks, he adds something awesome to an arsenal of things. And he very articulate, but it's cooking. So it's just like a cooking show on television. Be able to cut to something 45 minutes later.
Okay, what's the name of this channel again?
Abish. Extremely good at doing what he does, and he's very interesting. I would definitely suggest giving the dude a try. Actually, I really enjoy his content, and I don't really watch a whole lot of anything.
Oh wow, he's got like 3.5 million subscribers.
It wasn't that long ago when he hit 3 million. It's still growing, and it's very, very, very good content. And he makes interesting choices on stuff too. He also gets some audience participation in every once in a while, and has people do challenges, and they send them videos, and he sends people stuff. It's really neat. That dude, in my opinion, probably not going to have great success trying to do something on Twitch, because again, you have to be able to cut to this ingredient, cut to those ingredients, cut to 45 minutes later after you cook the thing for 45 minutes, cut to 2 days later after you bring something out of a brining solution, depending what you're making.
Right.
Yeah, so all these guys who like to do the heavy editing on what they do, and a lot of those dudes are, and some of them are even video gamers, like they cut to the most interesting parts of what they're doing. Probably not going to be interested in Twitch. And realistically, man, to do really well on Twitch, like really well, to engage with people for 8 hours at a time, 6 hours at a time, 12. I mean, there's people who do 24-hour streams.
Oh yeah.
The fortitude as a human to be able to do that. Well, not everyone is like, I mean, I sleep 4 hours a night. I know that makes me a freak of nature. Most people need 8 to 12 hours of sleep. Like that's just being human. That's part of what it is. And so even the ones that do well and make a lot of money, most of them also have jobs. So they may not have the time to commit to doing this. Like a lot of the people who do these really awesome YouTube videos, they put out two videos a week.
Probably something around there. I mean, I'm sure it varies from channel to channel.
So that means that they shoot for 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
And that's a day.
Yeah.
And then they take another day to day and a half to edit it down to a manageable amount of time. Day and a half. And so you can create an hour to 2 hours worth of content out of 6 hours worth of content basically once every 3 days.
Well, yeah, man. I mean, you can just look at
that doesn't translate, in my opinion. Does not translate to Twitch. I think that they are two very different tools for the same niche. They're different because you definitely, like, the things that you're doing lend towards both, and I think that it's very things that lend towards both. But I don't think that you actually have to. I think it is okay for some of these people to make that choice. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but I think overall YouTubers are kind of selling themselves short as far as whether or not they could make it on Twitch. But you're right that some people it's just not going to work because of how they like to do what they do. Like take this show for example, like it's way more work than most people realize. Like I spend about 6 hours on the day we record, plus an hour a day roughly looking at, aggregating content, finding stories that I want to talk about on the show. I do that for about an hour a day every day. Weekends, news is a little bit slower, so I don't have to spend quite an hour. But yeah, I probably plug 12 to 15 hours a week into this show alone.
Sounds about right, and I think that's a normal ratio to content. Honestly, is for every hour that you're producing anything that's not live content. For every hour that you're producing, you're going to put into it. I think that's a normal thing. I have other friends who do podcasts, and that seems to be the ratio that they're putting in as well. I think that you're right there on par with industry standard, honestly.
But on the other side of that, when I'm gaming, when I'm playing Magic or Overwatch or Call of Duty or anything like that, it's so nice to just be able to get onto Twitch, hit stream and record, and just know I've got, I'm streaming and then I've got that video ready. And when you're playing, like when you're in the middle of a game, you don't really have to do a whole lot of editing. People kind of want to see what you're like when you're streaming. At least a lot of them do. And yeah, there's going to be some boring moments when you stream. So, but sometimes I don't always stream. I've got a few Magic videos up where I just recorded, and I skip that time period in between matches and stuff like that, and it makes a really clean, crisp piece of content when you do that.
As you should be. Yeah, that's correct.
But yeah, when I'm streaming, obviously I'm not really doing a whole lot of editing. I just stream it, record it, and then I throw that recording directly onto YouTube. It's almost like an archive kind of thing in some ways. I like to mix it up and do different things. And sometimes, I'll even write an article and put it on the website along with that YouTube video. But
Right.
I'm trying to hit everything. Like as an aspiring entertainer, content creator, and gaming enthusiast, I want to make myself happy. I want to make everybody else happy. I want to create content that's fun to watch, that's engaging. And I've really kind of embraced all of these different channels that I can use to do that. And I think,
Absolutely.
And I think maybe some of these YouTube creators are should give it another shot. But that's just my personal opinion.
There's a thing I'd like to add to today.
Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead.
It just kind of came up. Aware of this, but if you go on GoFundMe right now, a campaign. No, I know that GoFundMe exists, but I'm going to send you a link right now.
Okay.
Funding on GoFundMe to fund the border wall. A $1 billion goal, and in 2.5 days, they have raised $5.6 million goddamn dollars.
Get the fuck out of here.
This is a real thing. These people are crowdfunding, and I've never been more embarrassed to be a fucking American in my life.
Well, dude,
this is sickening.
I don't have words. When it comes to politics, a lot of times I just don't have the right words for how disgusted I can be.
I don't know that there are right words for this. I don't even know if it would be legal for them to take the money if they fund it. To be honest with you, I don't have the law mind to know if it would be legal for the government to take the money for this to be, if it's funded. I would say that it probably will end up being tied up in litigation. I hope they'll be tied up in litigation long enough that it's not going to fucking matter. But when it comes down to it, we have right now there have been 93,457 people. I'm assuming they can't all be Russian trolls. I'm sure some number of them are. They can't all be Russian trolls, but $93,000.6 million put up a wall to stop brown people from getting into our country. And I think that the people need to think about this. What kind of people are we in this country?
I'll tell you what kind of people we are. We're fucked up people. There's a lot of fucked up people in the United States, and hopefully things are going to get better in a couple of years. Let's hope. But that's a pretty ridiculous amount of money, though.
The scary thing about crowdfunding things, if you look at the actual average, 93,000 people, that's like $60 a person, dude. That's not a lot, per person. Now I'm sure that a lot of these are $5 a piece, and a couple of people have been like, here's 10 grand because they're morons. But realistically, this is a lot of morally bankrupt people, and I'm not going to get into my normal diatribe on this because I don't have 6 hours, but up on this because we try to talk about things that affect everybody, and we try to talk about things that are current and matter, and this is definitely something that is both current and matters.
Oh yeah, it definitely matters. I 100% agree with you.
At this rate, they're gonna hit this month and a half, roughly.
That's pretty fucking scary.
It won't be shut down by GoFundMe, and I say that because every time you submit something to GoFundMe, they actually front load all their investigation to make sure it's legit. And anytime something gets past their of not being legit, usually it's shut down within 24 hours. As much as I'm not a big fan of crowdsourcing things because it can be a corrupt situation, GoFundMe as a company is very good at things that are illegal. And so the fact that we're 3 days in on this tells me that it's legal. Anywhere, I have a hope that, and they hit the goal. Like $1 billion, no matter how many people you put it to, $1 billion is an amount of money that doesn't even make sense to my brain. Because I'm a normal person, I'll never make near that much money. So hopefully it feels somewhere mark. But realistically, I mean, this may actually be a thing.
Well, let's hope it isn't a thing. Let's hope this is just some kind of joke. Or not really a joke, but let's hope it's just, you know... Sorry, go ahead.
That's what we are.
So moving on here, we're going to Netflix right now. Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. For those of you who have not seen the show, it's absolutely fantastic. Great show. The first season just wrapped up like last month, and we got a holiday episode just last week, I believe. And the part 2 of the first season, or the second season, however you want to look at, is going to be released in the spring. And Netflix has gone on ahead and given us 2 more parts, so essentially 2 more seasons of this show. I'm very excited about this. It's one of the best shows I've seen in a while, and just a really, really good time. John, I'm going to go ahead and let you kind of take over here. What do you have to say about Sabrina?
I did not yet watch the holiday special. I hope to be able to take some time this weekend and chill out and watch that. I'm really looking forward to it. I don't know anything about it yet, and I don't want to. I really, really like the show. I love the casting. I'm singularly unsurprised that they're going to be committing to at least 4 seasons on this for a couple of reasons. One of which is the things that you're stating, but another is it is a property that they have pretty much direct control over as far as licensing. It is a licensed property from the Archie comics, but they have, hand at the wheel. And I think that what we're going to see very strongly in the next year or so is 2-pronged. One of which is them shoring up the shows that have been good hits for them and treating them very well to keep them because of what Marvel did and Disney did in the last couple months or so. And I honestly think that we're going to see some more non-mainstream / or indie comics getting shows on Netflix, because they know that Netflix knows that people like this stuff, and they know that they're starting to realize that people like the off the wall comic stuff, the stuff that's not just straight mainstream superheroes, and smaller are more likely to want to deal with these types of things in a positive way. So I think that this is going to be a net positive for people who like straight up, built dudes in tights superhero things.
Yeah, John, I think you're right about that. I feel like Netflix really they're not scared to fail anymore. They got plenty of money coming in. They can do whatever they want. And this is a great show.
Even if something's not super popular, they've still got the access to let it stream for the rest of eternity. So they're really there's no losing here.
Right. They just have a huge library, and they're looking to make an even larger library to make their make their subscription costs worth it for sure. And I mean, it already is worth $10 a month, in my opinion.
They would have to do something catastrophically stupid.
Yeah, or something. Yeah, pretty much. So moving on here, according to this article I found at The Verge, high schoolers are using less drugs and binge drinking less, and they're vaping more. Only 3.6% of high schoolers are smoking daily, which is down from 22% 20 years ago. Binge drinking is down, and young people are using less cocaine, using less MDMA, to the point where it's at historically low levels. There is much less opioid usage, which is great, and marijuana usage seems to stay pretty much the same, even though more and more states are legalizing marijuana. However, vaping has just kind of exploded. Essentially, the numbers have doubled, and this is causing a lot of concern because, vaping. I vape, and any of you who listened to the first episode of this podcast know that I vape because I was live on camera for that show. And I'm vaping for one reason, and that's because I want to quit smoking. Like, I quit smoking 15 years ago. I got down from a pack a day smoker to half a pack a day, but I couldn't get down any further than that on my own. So I decided to move to a vape and try to wean myself off that way. I started at 12 milligrams of nicotine. I'm now down to 1.5 milligrams of nicotine. And for me, vaping is a tool, and I feel like that's how it should be looked at. Nicotine is a dangerous thing. I've had a lot of vices over the years, from poker and gambling, alcohol, my own issues with recreational drug use, etc. And the one thing, I've been able to sit everything down and walk away without any problems. It was obviously a problem at first, like, hey, I kind of want to do this, but I got over it. Nicotine, especially in the form of cigarettes, have been a completely different story, which is why I'm having to do things this very long and hard way. So as a tool, I believe in vaping. I believe it's a great tool to get people off of smoking. However, I think the amount of high schoolers who are using this is definitely a concern. And I've met high schoolers who've never even smoked a cigarette before. They just want to vape because everyone they know vapes. It's pretty absurd and ridiculous. And I think high schoolers don't, and not just high schoolers, but young people in general, don't have any idea on just how powerful nicotine is and how it can really take a hold on your life and your wallet. John, what do you have to say about this?
I think that the only real reason for anyone to use vaping is to get off of cigarettes. I don't think cigarettes should be legal. I don't think that. I do think that booze should be legal. I think that it's totally not the same thing.
Well, yeah.
At all. In my mind, I don't think smoking should be legal. I think that anyone who has ever been middle management or higher in a tobacco company should go to prison for the rest of their lives, because all they've done is prey on poor people.
I mean, let me just interject here for a second. Like, I completely agree. Like, I don't have any issue with booze whatsoever. Like, I quit drinking. Like, really, like, I don't. If people want to drink and it's in moderation, then it's fine. I don't have a problem with it. Smoking is a much, much different monster, right? So yeah, sorry for interrupting. I just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, literally, if you light up a cigarette and you inhale that smoking, you're putting smoke in your lungs. If you're a firefighter, pounds and pounds of equipment to make sure that you're not putting smoke in your lungs.
Well, yeah,
because it could kill you.
Carbon monoxide is a deadly chemical, and it's
if you're smoking, then you are paying someone money. Smoking your lungs that
yes.
could and probably will kill you.
Yep.
Like there's no sense.
You are not wrong.
And now we know more than we've ever known, and everything points towards, hey guys, don't do this. I have concerns about vaping. It's just trying to get off of cigarettes for good to make their lives better. There is a culture of people in our country right now that is trying to make vaping look cool. They trick out their machines to make more vapor. They do competitions.
Well, yeah, this has been going on for like 20 years, man.
Ramped up through time.
Like,
we don't know.
Sorry, go ahead.
Here's the thing that people need to understand is we have modern science looking at cigarettes has been going on for now. People have been vaping for what, 10 years, 12 years, roughly?
About 20-ish, 15 to 20, something
it
like
was
that.
super niche until about 10 years ago, though.
Yeah, I think the first time I saw...
You didn't see those boxes until about 10 years ago, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it was like 2009, the first time I ever saw those products in a gas station, something like that. somewhere around there.
The blue electronic cigarettes probably is the first thing I ever saw. The BLU.
Yeah, that's
I believe
the one.
it was 2010 or so, 2011, somewhere in there.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
This is let's say it's been going on for 15 years.
Sure.
Let's say do it scientifically for probably 5 years. We have 80 less years worth of scientific data based on what happens when you put this vapor into your lungs than we do what happens when you put smoke into your lungs. A lot of people have not heard of this before. There's this thing called popcorn lung. It's the reason why if you buy a bag of microwavable popcorn, it tells you not to open it directed at your face because there's a vapor that comes out of microwavable popcorn that if you breathe it too much will give you a wet lung and it can kill you.
Yep, it's definitely a concern.
That's not what's going to happen to people who are vaping. We have no fucking clue of this.
Right.
So the amount of anyone trying to get people to do the vaping thing is just astronomical to me. I think that people need to think before they do these things. It's really important.
Well, honestly, we don't know.
I think that people should think about that don't fucking think about, honestly.
We don't really know a whole lot about popcorn lung right now and how vaping affects it. There's just not enough information out there. But most of the chemical that can cause popcorn lung is only found in certain juices. It's not found in all of them. But it is 100% definitely a concern. This chemical is usually found in like your buttery, kind of custardy type flavors, but definitely not in like the fruity.
Yeah, I can't wait until we have to call some syndrome vape lung. That's going to be great.
It's probably only a matter of time, really. I'm sure somebody's going to blame it for something. But I think it's great for what I'm using it for, and I think that should be the tool that everybody uses it for. Nicotine is way too powerful of a substance to be completely legal without being controlled, in my opinion. Moving on to our final topic of the day. Tinder has fired its vice president of marketing and communications. Her name is Rosette Pambakian, which I'm sure I'm butchering that name, as well as other employees who all sued Tinder's parent company Match Group and its controlling shareholder IAC. Now, the thing is, this is kind of a group lawsuit kind of thing, and there's some other parts with it. Like the lawsuit was filed by some Tinder co-founders and some other executives that were with the company because this parent company, they say that they manipulated financial data in order to lower the company's valuation. Now, on the other side of that, there's also an alleged incident where the CEO of Match and Tinder groped and sexually harassed Rosette Pambakian. I think this is part of the same lawsuit, but I'm not 100% on this. But the main thing that I thought was odd is that Pambakian, as well as Jonathan Badeen, who's also part of this group that's filing suit, as well as I think a few other employees, stayed at the company after filing suit. Now, that seems utterly ridiculous to me. Like, if you want to file a lawsuit, like, I'm sure there's some reason that you could stay, like maybe if it's some sort of sexual harassment thing. I'm sure John will probably agree with me there. But if that's not the case, and the alleged sexual misconduct thing is like, I feel like that's like a second part of this. Like, I feel like the main reason is kind of like something the SEC is probably going to be involved with the financial data, and you know, this group blowing the whistle here. I mean, who does this? Like, who stays at a company after suing them? That just seems ridiculous to me.
Assuming that means that they're the guys that own Match.com, am I correct in assuming that?
Yeah.
Okay.
They own like a few other different websites as well that are all like relationship oriented. What do you think about, not necessarily?
Fair enough.
what do you think about not necessarily like the alleged sexual misconduct, but specifically, what do you think about people staying at a company when they're filing suit? Like that's silly, right? It seems silly to me anyway.
It makes sense if what you're suing them for is sexual harassment, though, because the when it's a discriminatory issue, when this lawsuit is based on a discrimination of gender, sex, creed, race, any of those things, then yes, I think that you're likely to try to continue to work while you try to sue the company you work for.
Well,
I think
yeah,
it's
that
very
makes
unlikely to work out for you.
yeah, you're right. I
You're
mean, that
not going to
makes
be
a lot
employed
more
by them
sense.
at that point, even if they pay you. But yes, that I get for sure. If it's one of those things, honestly, I read this article, and whoever wrote it does not have a very good grasp of what journalism is supposed to be.
Fair.
Half of it made no goddamn sense. I think that I would not be very surprised to hear that a company like that would find themselves entitled enough to try to do something stupid like that. And if that is the case, I think that the person should be prosecuted for sure. As far as what the real reason for some of these lawsuits and some of this other stuff with this case, I think that there's a lot of things that are going unreported here, and it's really hard to make a statement about them.
Yeah,
even on a casual level like we are.
It definitely seems like there's some shit going on. Like we should be reading between the lines, and it feels like we're definitely not getting the whole story here. It just, the topic in general just seemed really ridiculous to me. That it was these employees, not just the female in question that I mentioned at the beginning of the segment, but just there's multiple employees that stayed at the company after filing a lawsuit. Like I can't even imagine that shit. Like it's got to be horrible on both sides. Like just absolutely miserable. Pathetical job, and we both worked there, and let's just say it was a warehouse, for example, and we did certain things, and you and I decided that we were going to sue for one reason or another. Not saying that this actually happened or anything like that, or that John and I have ever worked together in a particular warehouse in Roanoke, Virginia, but let's just say that we did, and we decided to sue. John, what do you think our life would have been like if we had decided to sue and stay with that company? Because let's just say working for this company, hypothetically, was already miserable enough as is.
I know exactly how that would have turned out. They would have set up they would have emptied out that one little room. You know what little room I'm talking about.
Hypothetically.
They would have put two hard bottom chairs opposite walls, and they would have said, all right, there's your 8 hours, go and sit. And that would have been what it was until it was resolved to the point where either we won or they were legally able to fire us.
Hypothetically. All right, well, I think that about wraps up the show for today. Thanks for coming in and hanging out on our show. I'm Matt, and I'm here with my friend John. And this is the Nerd Talk Podcast by the Digital Worm. Thanks for hanging out. You guys have a great day. And we'll see you next week. Happy holidays.